Chapter 1. The silver blade pressed against my throat as I knelt in the dirt, watching my sister take the place that should have been mine. You always were the expendable one, Lyra, Selena whispered, her emerald dress shimmering in the torchlight as she stepped onto the sacred platform. The dress I was supposed to wear, the position I was supposed to hold. My hands trembled against the rope binding my wrists behind the ancient oak tree. Around us, the moonrise pack had gathered in a perfect circle, their eyes reflecting the firelight like hungry wolves, which technically they were. But tonight felt different. Tonight felt like a hunt, and I was the prey. The ritual must be performed by the eldest daughter, Elder Thorn announced, his weathered voice carrying across the clearing, as tradition demands. I bit back a bitter laugh, eldest by 3 minutes. 3 minutes that had defined our entire lives, given Selena everything while leaving me with scraps. But this was supposed to be different. The Oracle's vision had been clear. The Alpha King would choose his mate tonight, and she would be from our bloodline. What the Oracle hadn't mentioned was that my own sister would drug my evening tea and tie me to a tree to steal my birthright. Begin the summoning, Thorn commanded. Selena raised her arms, and I watched in horror as she began the ancient words I'd practiced for months, the words that were supposed to call the Alpha King from the Shadow Realm to bind him to our pack through the mate bond. The air grew thick, electric. Power crackled between the trees like lightning trapped in amber, and then everything went wrong. The ground beneath Selena's feet began to crack. The carefully drawn ritual circle erupted in silver flames, and she stumbled backward, her face pale with terror. "What's happening?" she shrieked, but Elder Thorn had gone rigid, his eyes rolled back white. The flames rose higher, forming a column of pure energy that made my skin burn even from 30 feet away. Through the fire, a shadow began to take shape. Tall, broad-shouldered, with eyes that glowed like molten gold, the Alpha King had arrived. But instead of looking at Selena, instead of acknowledging the woman standing in the sacred circle, his burning gaze swept the crowd until it found me. "Where is she?" His voice was like thunder rolling through my bones, deep and commanding and utterly terrifying. "Where is my true mate?" Selena stepped forward, her chin raised in false confidence. "I am here, Your Majesty. I am the eldest daughter of... You are not the one I seek." The Alpha King's words cut through her declaration like a blade through silk. He stepped out of the flames, and I could see him clearly now. Dark hair that seemed to absorb moonlight, a face carved from marble and shadow, a body that moved with predatory grace. Power radiated from him in waves that made my wolf whimper inside my chest. "The ritual circle recognizes only truth," he said, his golden eyes never leaving mine. "It will not be fooled by deception." Elder Thorn stumbled forward, confusion creasing his ancient features. But the traditions clearly state, that the eldest daughter must perform the ritual. The Alpha King's voice grew deadly quiet, but they do not specify which eldest daughter. My heart stopped. "Lyra," he said, and my name on his lips was like a prayer and a curse rolled into one. "Daughter of Marcus and Helen Blackwood, born 17 minutes before the sister who stands in your place." The clearing erupted in shocked whispers. 17 minutes, not 3. 7. "That's impossible," Selena snarled. "I was born first. I've always been first." "Your parents lied." The Alpha King began walking toward me, each step making the earth tremble. They feared what it would mean to have their true firstborn claim her heritage. So they reversed your birth times, raised the younger as the elder, kept the real heir hidden in plain sight. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Everything I'd known about my life, my place in the pack, my relationship with my sister, it was all built on a lie. "Untie her," the Alpha King commanded, but no one moved. The pack members looked between each other uncertainly, afraid to act without Elder Thorn's permission. The Alpha King's eyes flashed dangerously. "I will not ask again." The ropes around my wrists simply dissolved. Silver light burned along my arms where they'd been, and I stumbled forward, free but utterly lost. "This changes nothing," Selena hissed, stepping between us. "Even if what you say is true, I'm still the pack's chosen representative. You are still nothing to me," the Alpha King said simply. His gaze softened as it returned to me. "But you, Lyra Blackwood, are everything." He extended his hand, and I stared at it like it might bite me. This morning, I'd been the forgotten sister, the spare heir, the one who cleaned up after pack meetings and served drinks at gatherings. Now, an Alpha King, the most powerful shifter in existence, was claiming I was his destined mate. I don't understand, I whispered. The mate bond cannot be manufactured, he said gently. It cannot be stolen or transferred or given to another. It simply is, and it has been calling me to you for months. Behind him, Selena's face had gone white with rage. Elder Thorn looked like he might faint. The assembled pack members whispered frantically among themselves. But all I could focus on was the Alpha King's outstretched hand and the warmth radiating from his skin. Choose, he said softly. Come with me willingly, or I will take you anyway. But either way, you are mine, and I am yours. The ritual has made it so. From somewhere in the darkness beyond the trees, a wolf howled. Then another, and another. They're coming, someone whispered fearfully. The Alpha King smiled, and it was all sharp teeth and deadly promise. Yes, they are. If you were Lyra, would you take the Alpha King's hand, knowing it would change everything forever? Tell me below, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss what happens next when the real danger arrives. Chapter 2. The howls were getting closer. My hand trembled in the Alpha King's grip as he pulled me toward him, his golden eyes scanning the tree line with predatory focus. The warmth of his touch sent electric shocks up my arm, and I could feel something inside me responding, something wild and powerful that I'd never felt before. Rogues, Elder Thorn breathed, his face ashen. They found us. No, the Alpha King said grimly, never taking his eyes off the shadows between the trees. Not rogues, hunters. The words sent ice through my veins. Hunters were worse than rogues. They were humans who knew about our kind and hunted us for sport, for experiments, for the sick pleasure of watching shifters die. The ritual's energy, I whispered, understanding, flooding through me. It called to them. He nodded approvingly. Smart girl. The summoning created a beacon that every supernatural creature within 100 miles could feel, including those who wish us dead. A gunshot cracked through the night, and one of our pack members cried out, clutching his shoulder. Silver bullets, they burned like acid and prevented healing. Everyone shift, protect formation. Elder Thorn commanded, but his voice cracked with fear. Around us, pack members began the transformation, bones cracking and reforming, skin sprouting fur, human cries becoming wolf howls. But there were only 30 of us, and from the sound of the approaching vehicles, there were far more hunters. You need to run, the Alpha King said urgently, his hands gripping my shoulders. Get as far from here as possible. What about my pack, my family? Even as I said it, I looked toward Selena, who stood frozen on the ritual platform, her elegant dress now torn and dirty. Your pack will survive or they won't, he said harshly. But you're the key to everything now. If the hunters capture you, if they realize what you are, what I am. I stared at him in confusion. I'm just a pack member. I don't even rank high enough to have a real voice in meetings. His golden eyes blazed. You're my mate. You're the Luna Queen of all shifters. And after tonight's ritual, you're something more. His voice dropped to a whisper that only I could hear. The magic recognized you, Lyra. It changed you. Can't you feel it? Now that he mentioned it, I could. Power hummed under my skin like electricity, making my fingertips tingle and my vision sharper than it had ever been. The scents around me were overwhelming. Fear, blood, gunpowder, and underneath it all, the Alpha King's scent, pine and smoke, and something wildly masculine that made my wolf purr with satisfaction. Another gunshot, closer this time. A woman screamed.
Enough talk, he growled.
We leave, now. But before we could move, armed figures burst from the tray line. At least 20 humans in tactical gear, silver weapons gleaming in the firelight. Their leader stepped forward, removing his helmet to reveal a scarred face and cold blue eyes. Well, he said in a voice like gravel, Marcus Crane, at your service, and you must be the legendary Alpha King. His gaze shifted to me, and something predatory flickered in his expression. Though I must say, I wasn't expecting such interesting company. The Alpha King moved protectively in front of me, a low growl rumbling in his chest. You're trespassing on pack lands, human. Marcus laughed, a a sound devoid of warmth. Packlands, according to our legal documentation, this is government property. We're here on official business. Since when do government agents travel in the dead of night with silver bullets? Since monsters started thinking they could hide among decent people. Marcus's smile turned vicious. We know what you are, all of you. And we know about the ritual you just performed. My blood turned to ice. They'd been watching, planning. The girl, Marcus continued, his eyes fixed on me with uncomfortable intensity. She's the one, isn't she? The one the ritual chose. I can smell the magic on her from here. The Alpha King's growl deepened, and I could feel the change beginning in him, his human form struggling to contain the wolf beneath. You will not touch her, he snarled. Oh, I think I will, Marcus replied pleasantly. You see, we've been studying your kind for years. Breeding programs, genetic manipulation, behavioral modification, but we've never had a true mate pair to experiment on, especially not one with this level of power. The clearing erupted into chaos. Packwolves leaped at the hunters while silver bullets flew through the air like deadly stars. The Alpha King roared and began to shift, his form expanding and darkening as he became something between man and beast, larger than any wolf I'd ever seen, with claws like daggers and teeth that gleamed in the firelight. But there were too many hunters, and they'd come prepared. Silver nets flew through the air, trapping shifted pack members. Tranquilizer darts followed the bullets. Within minutes, half our pack was down. Lyra, run! The Alpha King commanded, even as he tore through 3 hunters with a single swipe of his massive claws. But I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. This was my pack. These were people I'd grown up with, people I'd served and cared for, people who were dying because of something I apparently was. Marcus appeared beside me so suddenly I didn't have time to react. His hand clamped over my mouth, and I felt the sharp prick of a needle in my neck. Don't worry, sweetheart, he whispered as darkness crept in around the edges of my vision. We'll take very good care of you and your mate. The last thing I saw before the tranquilizer pulled me under was the Alpha King's golden eyes, blazing with fury and desperation as silver nets brought him down. The last thing I heard was Selena's voice, high and panicked. Take me instead. I'm the real eldest daughter. I'm the one you want. But Marcus just laughed as he hoisted my unconscious body over his shoulder. No, little wolf, he said softly. She's exactly what we want. And then there was nothing but darkness. Chapter 3. I woke up in a cage, not metaphorically an actual steel cage with silver-lined bars that burned my skin when I accidentally brushed against them. The room around me was sterile white like a hospital, but the medical equipment looked wrong, too sharp, too cruel. She's awake, a clinical voice announced somewhere to my left. I turned my head, trying not to show how much the movement hurt, and saw a woman in a lab coat making notes on a clipboard. Behind her, through a reinforced window, Marcus Crane watched with those cold blue eyes. Where is he? My voice came out as a croak. The woman, Dr. Something according to her name tag, smiled without warmth. Your mate? Somewhere safe, for now. The bond between us was still there, I realized, faint but present, like a golden thread connecting my heart to his. He was alive, hurt but alive. What do you want from us? Direct. I like that. Marcus entered the room, his boots clicking on the polished floor. We want to understand the mate bond, how it works, how to break it, how to transfer it. Transfer it? Horror crept up my spine. Imagine the applications. He continued conversationally. Soldiers bonded to their commanding officers, ensuring absolute loyalty. Civilians bonded to the state, eliminating rebellion. A perfect society built on unbreakable connections. You're insane. I'm practical. His smile was all teeth, no warmth, but we'll start simple. Pain tolerance tests, separation anxiety studies. How far apart can mates be before the bond starts causing physical distress? As if on cue, a sharp pain lanced through my chest. Somewhere in this facility, the Alpha King was hurting. Let me see him, I demanded, gripping the cage bars despite the burn. Please. Marcus tilted his head, studying me like a bug under a microscope. Interesting. The bond compels you to beg, even knowing I'm your captain. The pain in my chest intensified, and I doubled over, gasping. Whatever they were doing to him was getting worse. Stop it, I whispered. Stop hurting him. We're not hurting him, Dr. Cold Smile said, making more notes. We're simply testing his limits, silver exposure. electrical stimulation, standard procedures. Rage flooded through me, white hot and overwhelming. The power I'd felt during the ritual surged beneath my skin, and the lights in the room flickered. Marcus stepped closer to the cage, his eyes bright with interest. Now that's fascinating. Emotional triggers seem to activate the enhanced abilities. Enhanced abilities? Oh, my dear girl, did no one tell you? He crouched down to my eye level. The ritual didn't just create a mate bond, it awakened something else in you. Something we've been searching for decades to understand. The lights flickered again, and I could smell ozone in the air. The Luna power, he continued, the ability to channel and amplify the strength of all wolves connected to you. In the old stories, a true Luna could heal mortal wounds, could make her mate invincible in battle, could even bring wolves back from the edge of death. My hands were glowing now, silver light pulsing under my skin in rhythm with my heart. And the best part, Marcus said, his voice dropping to an excited whisper, is that it's transferable. With the right procedures, the right encouragement, we can move that power from you to someone more suitable, someone loyal to our cause. I breathe, can't we? We've already begun the preliminary test. Your sister was quite eager to volunteer as a recipient. The world tilted. Selena? She's been very cooperative. Told us everything about your pack's weaknesses, your defenses, even helped us track down the other packs in the region. His smile turned cruel. Family loyalty is such a fragile thing, isn't it? The silver light under my skin flared brighter, and the metal bars of my cage began to heat up. Careful now, Dr. Cold Smile warned. Too much excitement, and we might have to sedate you again. And sedation makes the bonding transfer process so much more unpleasant. A roar echoed through the facility, deep, primal, and filled with such rage that it made my bones vibrate. The Alpha King was fighting back. Marcus stood up, checking his watch, right on schedule. The silver poisoning should be reaching critical levels about now. Amazing how much pain a mate bond can transmit, isn't it? I felt it then, not just his pain, but his desperation, his fear, not for himself, but for me. Through the bond, I could sense him fighting against restraints, against poison, against the growing weakness in his body, all to try to reach me. You're killing him, I whispered. Eventually, yes, but not until we've extracted what we need from both of you. Marcus headed for the door. Doctor, prepare the subject for phase 2. I want to see how much power we can draw out before the mate bond breaks entirely. The moment the door closed behind him, I felt something shift inside me. The rage, the desperation, the love flowing through the mate bond, it all crystallized into something sharp and purposeful. The silver light under my skin stopped flickering and began to glow steady and bright. The metal bars of my cage groaned under suddenly immense pressure. Dr. Cold Smile looked up from her clipboard, her eyes widening. Impossible. The silver should be suppressing. The cage exploded outward. I stood in the wreckage, power coursing through me like liquid fire, and for the first time in my life, I felt truly dangerous. Where is my mate? I asked softly. Dr. Cold Smile scrambled backward, hitting an alarm button. Red lights began flashing throughout the facility, but I was already moving, the Luna power guiding me through the maze of corridors like a homing beacon. I could feel him now, close, but getting weaker by the second. Behind me, I heard Dr. Cold Smile screaming into a radio. Subject has broken containment. Repeat, the Luna subject has broken containment. Let them come, I thought grimly. They wanted to see what the Luna power could do. They were about to find out. Chapter 4. The facility's corridors blurred past me as I followed the golden thread of the mate bond, silver light streaming from my hands like liquid moonfire. Every step sent power crackling through the sterile walls, shorting out security cameras and making the fluorescent lights explode in showers of sparks. Armed guards rounded the corner ahead, weapons raised. Stop right there. I didn't even slow down. The Luna power surged outward, and their silver bullets melted mid-air before they could reach me. One guard's weapon simply crumbled to dust in his hands. They scattered, shouting into their radios about unprecedented paranormal activity. The bond pulled me deeper into the facility, past laboratories filled with nightmarish equipment, past cells containing other captured shifters who called out desperately as I passed. I wanted to help them, but the Alpha King's life was fading with every second. I could feel it through our connection, his heartbeat growing irregular, his breathing shallow. At the end of a heavily reinforced corridor, I found him. He was suspended in the center of a circular chamber, silver chains wrapped around his wrists and ankles, dozens of IV lines running into his arms. The liquid in the bags was silver tinted, slowly poisoning him. Drop by drop, his magnificent form was reduced to human shape, unconscious and pale as death. Magnificent specimen, isn't he? I spun around to find a man I didn't recognize leaning against the door frame, tall, silver-haired, wearing an expensive suit that looked wildly out of place in this sterile horror show. His smile was warm and charming, but his eyes were as cold as winter ice. "Who are you?" I demanded, power still crackling around my hands. "Victor Crane," he said with a slight bow. "Marcus's father and the real architect of this little operation." Crane. The name hit me like a physical blow. The Crane family, old money, political connections, rumored ties to every major supernatural incident in the past century. "Ah, I see you recognize the name." Victor stepped into the chamber, seemingly unbothered by the silver light pouring off me. "My family has been studying your kind for generations. My great-grandfather was there when the first Alpha was captured in 8. My grandfather developed the silver injection protocols we still use today, and I perfected the art of breaking mate bonds. You're the one behind all this. Guilty as charged." His smile widened, revealing teeth that were just slightly too sharp. Though I prefer to think of myself as a researcher, a pioneer. Do you have any idea how rare true mate pairs are? We've been waiting decades for subjects like you. I took a step toward the Alpha King, and Victor tested softly. I wouldn't if I were you. One wrong move and I fled his system with enough liquid silver to kill him instantly. He held up a small remote control. The beauty of modern technology, I don't even have to be in the same room to commit murder. What do you want? What I've always wanted to understand the source of supernatural power so I can control it. Your kind has abilities that could revolutionize human civilization. Strength, speed, healing, telepathic connections. His eyes glittered with avarice. All we need is to find a way to transfer those gifts to more deserving recipients, like yourself. Like those with the vision to use them properly. He began circling the chamber, keeping just out of reach. Imagine a world where death from injury is impossible, where human soldiers have the strength of 10 men, where loyalty can be chemically guaranteed through artificial mate bonds. The Alpha King stirred, his eyelids fluttering. Through our connection, I felt him fighting his way back to consciousness. "Ah, perfect timing," Victor said pleasantly. I do so hate monologuing to an unconscious audience. Golden eyes opened, immediately finding mine across the chamber. The relief and love that flooded through the bond nearly brought me to my knees. "Lyra," he whispered, his voice hoarse from the silver poisoning. "You shouldn't have come." "Like I had a choice," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "The bond wouldn't let me leave you." Victor clapped slowly, touching, truly. But this gives me the perfect opportunity to demonstrate our latest breakthrough. He pulled out a tablet, swiping through what looked like medical charts. "We've discovered that the mate bond can be artificially strengthened through shared trauma. The more pain you experience together, the deeper the connection becomes." "You're sick and thorough." His fingers moved over the tablet's surface. Let's start with something simple. Electricity suddenly coursed through the Alpha King's chains. He arched against the restraints, a roar of pain tearing from his throat. The agony hit me through the bond like a physical blow, driving me to my knees. "Fascinating," Victor murmured, watching us both. "The power transfer is immediate. His pain becomes yours, but watch." He adjusted something on the tablet, and the Alpha King's muscles began to glow with silver light, my light. "Your Luna energy is flowing into him, trying to heal the damage. But the silver in his system won't let it work properly, so you're just burning through your own life force." He was right. I could feel my energy draining away, flowing uselessly into the Alpha King's poisoned system. "Stop," I gasped. "You'll kill us both." "Eventually, yes. But not before we collect enough data to replicate the process. Victor's smile turned predatory. Your sister has been particularly helpful in understanding your family's unique genetic markers. Did you know your bloodline carries dormant Luna traits going back 12 generations? We're going to be able to create an entire army of artificial Lunas. Through the bond, I felt the Alpha King's rage spike. His eyes blazed gold. And despite the silver poisoning, despite the chains, despite everything they'd done to power began to build in his chest. Release her, he snarled, his voice deepening as his wolf fought to surface. Face me like a man instead of hiding behind your toys and your torture. Victor laughed. Oh, I don't think so. You see, we've learned that alphas in protective mode produce the most interesting neurochemical responses. The more desperate you become to save your mate, the more raw power you generate. He pressed something else on the tablet and new restraints emerged from the walls, heading straight for me. But I'd had enough of being a victim. The Luna power exploded outward from my core, not in random bursts this time, but focused and controlled. The restraints melted before they could touch me. The silver chains holding the Alpha King began to smoke and crack. Impossible. Victor breathed, stepping backward. The suppression field should. Your suppression field was designed for normal wolves, I said, advancing on him as power built around me like a storm. But I'm not normal, am I? I'm something you've never seen before. The Alpha King's chains shattered and he dropped to the floor, silver burns covering his body, but his eyes blazing with renewed strength. The connection between us flared, and suddenly I wasn't just channeling my own power, I was channeling his, and through him every wolf in our bloodline going back generations. Victor's confident mask finally slipped, revealing the fear underneath. Guards! But no guards came. Through the facility, I could hear alarms blaring and distant explosions. Something else was happening. The Alpha King struggled to his feet, his body already beginning to heal now that the silver chains were broken. The cavalry arrives, he said grimly. Victor's eyes widened in understanding. The other packs, did you really think, the Alpha King said, his voice gaining strength with every word, that you could capture the Luna Queen and the Alpha King without consequences? Every shifter pack in North America felt the bond calling for help. Through the shattered windows, I could hear them now, dozens of howls echoing through the night. Not howls of pain or fear, but howls of war. Victor backed toward a hidden door in the wall, his composure completely shattered. This isn't over. We have contingency plans, other facilities. Your sister will answer for her betrayal, the Alpha King finished coldly. But first, we deal with you. The door slammed shut behind Victor just as the first explosions rocked the building's foundation. The Alpha King reached for me, and the moment our hands touched, the Luna power stabilized, flowing between us in perfect harmony. Are you ready to show them what a true mate bond can do? He asked, his golden eyes fierce with love and battle lust. I smiled, feeling more myself than I ever had in my entire life. Let's tear this place apart. Chapter 5. The facility shook as another explosion rocked the upper levels. Through our joined hands, I could feel the Alpha King's strength returning, but also his urgency. We weren't safe yet. The other prisoners, I said, thinking of the desperate voices I'd heard calling out as I passed their cells. We can't leave them. He nodded grimly. Victor will try to use them as leverage or eliminate the evidence entirely. Either way, we're their only hope. We moved through the corridors together, our powers flowing in perfect synchronization. Where I melted silver locks, he tore apart reinforced doors. Within minutes, we'd freed a dozen captured shifters, wolves, bears, even a pair of young ravens who shifted and took to the air immediately. Scouting ahead, the exits blocked. One of the ravens called down to us, multiple vehicles, armed humans. But there's a service tunnel in the basement level. That's where they'll trap us, the Alpha King said darkly. Victor's too smart to leave an obvious escape route unguarded. As if summoned by his words, the facility's intercom crackled to life. Attention, supernatural specimens. Victor's voice echoed through the halls, smooth and mocking. I'm afraid I can't allow you to leave just yet. You see, we've made some fascinating discoveries during your brief captivity. The Alpha King's hand tightened on mine. Through the bond, I felt his protective instincts flare. Miss Blackwood, Victor continued, Your sister has been most informative about your family history. Did you know your bloodline doesn't just carry Luna traits? According to Selena, your grandmother used to tell stories about ancestors who could speak to the dead, who could see the future, who could, and this is the interesting part, resurrect fallen pack members. Ice flooded my veins. Those were just stories, fairy tales my grandmother told to make us feel special about our heritage. I see you're listening. Victor's voice purred through the speakers. Imagine my delight when we realized we'd captured not just any Luna, but a potential necromancer. The applications are limitless. He's lying, the Alpha King said urgently, but I could see doubt in his golden eyes. Those bloodline gifts haven't manifested in centuries. The intercom crackled again. To prove my point, I've prepared a small demonstration. Check security monitor 7. A screen flickered to life on the wall beside us, showing a stark white room. My heart stopped. Selena lay on a metal table, perfectly still, her skin pale as marble. Silver ivy lines ran into her arms, and machines beat steadily around her bed, but her chest wasn't moving. She volunteered for the procedure. Victor's voice said, with false sympathy, so eager to prove she was the better choice for Luna Queen. The silver injection was meant to prepare her body to receive your transferred powers, but I'm afraid her system couldn't handle the dosage. She's dead. I whispered, my legs going weak. For the moment, yes. But here's where it gets interesting. Touch the screen. Don't, the Alpha King warned. But I was already moving. The moment my palm pressed against the monitor, power exploded out of me, not the controlled Luna energy I'd been learning to handle, but something older, wilder, darker. Through the electrical connection, I felt my consciousness slam into Selena's still and found her soul trapped in a gray space between life and death, screaming, Lyra! She looked exactly as she had in life, but her eyes were filled with terror. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I thought they would just capture you, make you give up your birthright. I never meant for anyone to die. Selena, they lied to me. They said they could transfer the Luna power without hurting you, but they were going to kill you both. I tried to stop them, but it was too late. And then Victor said he needed to test the resurrection theory. Her words were cut off as something dark and hungry stirred in the gray space around us. Ancient power, older than the shifter bloodlines, older than human civilization, the kind of magic that demanded a price for every miracle. Choose. Victor's voice echoed through the in-between space. Your sister's life, or your mate's. The necromancer power will work, but it requires a soul exchange. Save one, lose the other. No! I screamed, but the dark power was already wrapping around me like chains, showing me the truth. I could bring Selena back, but the magic would tear the Alpha King's soul from his body to balance the scales. Or I could refuse, let my sister stay dead, and keep my mate safe. Through our bond, I felt the Alpha King's realization, his love, his acceptance, his desperate determination to make the choice for me. Do it? His voice came through the intercom. He'd found another monitor connected to the system. Save your sister. She made a mistake, but she doesn't deserve to die for it. I won't sacrifice you, and I won't let you live with her death on your conscience. His golden eyes blazed with fierce love through the screen. This is what mates do, Lyra. We protect each other even from ourselves. The dark power pulsed, eager for blood, for souls, for the ancient exchange it had been created to facilitate. But then something else stirred inside me. Not the necromancer gift, not the Luna power, but something simpler and infinitely stronger. Love. Love for my mate, for my sister, even for the pack members who'd never truly seen me. Love that refused to accept Victor's twisted choice. There's always another way, I whispered, and plunged deeper into the dark power, not to wield it, but to understand it. The magic was old. Yes. Hungry, yes. But also lonely. It had been twisted by centuries of fear and misuse, forced to demand terrible prices because that's what its wielders expect. What if I offered it something else instead? Take my Luna power, I said to the darkness. All of it. Let me be ordinary, human even, but bring back my sister without harming anyone else. The dark magic paused, considering, but the Alpha King's voice roared through our bond. Absolutely not. Lyra, Without the Luna power, the mate bond will break. You'll lose everything that makes you who you are. He was right. I could feel it already. Offering up the Luna gift would sever my connection to the shifter world entirely. I'd become fully human, lose my mate, lose my place in any pack. But Selena would live and no one would have to die. I choose...
Wait.
Another voice cut through the gray space, soft and ancient. My grandmother's spirit stepped out of the darkness, looking exactly as she had in life, but glowing with silver light. Lyra, child, you don't understand what you truly are. Did you see that twist coming? Who do you trust now, the grandmother's spirit offering new hope or the Alpha King urging sacrifice? Share your thought in the comments below. Chapter 6. My grandmother's spirit glowed brighter in the gray space between life and death, her familiar weathered hands reaching out to cup my face with impossible warmth. Grandmother? I breathed, hardly daring to believe it. The necromancer gift isn't about exchanging souls, child. She said gently, that's what they want you to believe. What Victor Crane needs you to believe to maintain control. Around us, the dark power writhed impatiently, hungry for the choice it had been promised. The true gift, my grandmother continued, is about calling souls home, all of them, without sacrifice, without payment, without the cruel exchanges that lesser magic demands. Through the monitor connection, I could hear Victor's voice growing sharp with frustration. Impossible. The ancient texts are clear. The ancient texts were written by men who feared women's power. My grandmother said, her voice carrying beyond the gray space to echo through the facility speakers. They rewrote our history, made us believe we needed to trade life for life because they couldn't comprehend magic born from love rather than conquest. The Alpha King's presence pressed against our bond, his confusion and desperate hope flowing through the connection. Lyra, whatever you're planning, trust me, I whispered back, then turned to my grandmother. Show me. She smiled, and suddenly the gray space exploded with silver light. I could see everything, not just Selena's soul trapped in the between place, but dozens of other spirit shifters who had died in this facility, humans Victor had experimented on, even some of his own researchers who had grown too squeamish and been eliminated. All of them waiting, all of them ready to return to life if someone just had the courage to call them home properly. The Luna power isn't separate from the necromancer gift. My grandmother explained as understanding flooded through me. They're the same ability viewed from different angles. Luna magic is about connections to your mate, to your pack, your bloodline. Necromancer magic is simply extending those connections across the veil of death. I felt it then, the truth of what she was saying. The power flowing through me wasn't two separate gifts fighting for dominance. It was one gift, whole and perfect and completely mine. But the facility, I said urgently, Victor's people, the other packs fighting outside, will have to wait, she said firmly. First, we fix what's been broken here. I reached out through the connection, not just to Selena, but to all the trapped souls, and spoke the words that came from somewhere deeper than memory. Come home. The gray space shattered like glass. I was back in my own body, still touching the monitor, but the Alpha King was beside me, his hand on my shoulder, channeling his strength into mine. Through the screens around us, we watched Selena's chest suddenly rise and fall. Her eyes fluttered open, confused but alive. But she wasn't the only one. Throughout the facility, other monitors flickered to life, showing empty cells suddenly occupied by very much alive and very angry supernatural beings. Victor's voice over the intercom had lost all its smooth confidence. Impossible. They were dead, confirmed dead. Death? I said, my voice carrying through the speakers with new authority is not as permanent as you think. And you, Victor Crane, have made a lot of enemies. The facility shook as something massive hit the building from outside. Through the windows, I could see the other packs had arrived in force. Dozens of wolves, bears, even a few great cats, all surrounding the complex. But now they weren't alone. The resurrected supernatural beings were fighting their way through the corridors, freeing more prisoners, turning Victor's own facility against him. We need to get out of here, the Alpha King said urgently, before Victor triggers whatever failsafe he's got planned. As if he'd heard, Victor's voice crackled through the speakers one more time. If I can't have you, no one can. Initiating facility sterilization protocol. Red lights began flashing, and a computerized voice announced, chemical payload deployment in T-minus 2 minutes. All personnel evacuate immediately. Chemical payload. I looked at the Alpha King in horror. Silver gas, he said grimly, dispersed through the air system. It'll kill every supernatural being in the building and make the entire area toxic to our kind for decades. We ran. The corridors were chaos, researchers fleeing, supernatural beings fighting their way toward exits, the building itself groaning under the assault from the packs outside. The Alpha King kicked down doors, clearing paths while I used the Luna power to shield the weaker prisoners from silver bullets. Lyra! Selena appeared at the end of a corridor, supported by two other escaped shifters. She looked terrible, pale, shaking, but alive. Sister, I breathed and despite everything, pulled her into a fierce hug. I'm sorry. She sobbed against my shoulder. I'm so sorry. I thought I deserved to be chosen, but I was wrong, and people died because of me. Chemical payload deployment in T-minus 90 seconds. We'll deal with this later, I said firmly, taking her hand. Right now we survive. The service tunnel the Ravens had spotted earlier was packed with fleeing prisoners, but the Alpha King shouldered through, creating space for our group. Behind us, I could hear Victor's voice over a portable radio, coordinating with his remaining forces. Seal the tunnel once the gas deploys. I don't care how many of our own people are still inside. He's going to trap everyone, I realized with growing horror. The Alpha King nodded grimly, including his own researchers. Victor's moved past scientific curiosity into pure hatred. We reached the tunnel just as the computerized voice announced T-minus 30 seconds. But the tunnel entrance was blocked, not by debris or collapsed stone, but by Marcus Crane and a squad of armed guards, all wearing gas masks. End of the line, monsters, Marcus said, his voice muffled but unmistakably pleased. Father's orders, no survivors. The Alpha King stepped protectively in front of our group, power building around him despite his injuries. But there were too many guards, too many weapons, and nowhere to run in the narrow tunnel. T-minus 15 seconds. That's when I felt it, not just my own power, not just the Alpha King's, but the combined strength of every supernatural being I'd resurrected, every pack member fighting outside, every shifter who had ever lived in our bloodline. The Luna connection wasn't just about mating or leading a single pack. It was about being the heart of our entire species, the thread that connected all of us across space and time and even death itself. I told the Alpha King softly, Lyra, trust me. I stepped forward facing Marcus and his weapons with nothing but my bare hands and the absolute certainty that I was exactly where I belonged. T-minus 5 seconds. You want to see what a real Luna can do? I asked Marcus, power building around me like a silver star. Let me show you. The gas began to hiss from the vents above us, but it never reached the tunnel. Because I caught it, wrapped it in Luna light, and sent it back where it came from. Chapter 7. The silver gas turned to harmless vapor the moment it touched my Luna light, but Marcus and his guards didn't wait to see the outcome. They opened fire, silver bullets screaming through the tunnel toward our group. I caught those too. Each bullet stopped midair, suspended in threads of silver power, before melting into harmless droplets that fell to the tunnel floor like rain. Impossible. Marcus breathed, his confidence finally cracking. The gas should have weakened you. Your father never understood, I said, advancing on him as the other supernatural beings streamed past us toward the exit. Power doesn't come from fear or control. It comes from connection. Behind me, I could feel the Alpha King's fierce pride through our bond, but also his growing concern. The effort of reversing the gas and stopping the bullets was draining me faster than I'd anticipated. Marcus seemed to sense it too, as fear shifted back toward cunning. You're burning through your energy reserves. How long can you keep this up? He was right. The necromancer magic had taken more out of me than I'd realized, and now maintaining shields for dozens of fleeing prisoners was pushing me toward my limit. But we were so close to the exit, so close to freedom. Long enough, I said, hoping it was true. That's when Victor's voice echoed through the facility one last time, not over the intercom, but from hidden speakers throughout the tunnel system. Clever girl. But you've made one crucial mistake. The tunnel walls began to glow with embedded silver wire, a trap within a trap. The entire escape route had been lined with enough silver to poison every supernatural being who tried to use it. The gas was never the real weapon. Victor's voice continued, smug satisfaction oozing through every word. It was the bait to drive you exactly where I wanted you. Around us, the weaker shifters began to collapse as silver poisoning set in. Selena stumbled, her newly resurrected body unable to handle the toxic exposure. Even the Alpha King was gritting his teeth against the burning sensation. But I felt nothing. Why isn't it affecting you? Marcus demanded, his eyes wide with confusion and fear. I looked down at my hands, still glowing with silver light, and suddenly understood, because I'm not fighting it anymore. The Luna power wasn't separate from the silver, it was the same energy, refined and purified. What poisoned other supernatural beings was my natural element. The silver isn't your weapon, I told Marcus, reaching out to touch the glowing wires. It's mine. Power exploded through the tunnel system like lightning through a conductor. Every silver wire, every trap, every hidden weapon Victor had embedded in the facility became an extension of my will. I could feel Victor now, holed up in his command center, 3 levels above us, frantically trying to activate emergency protocols. I could feel his remaining guards scattered throughout the building, their silver weapons suddenly useless. I could even feel Marcus beside me, the silver fillings in his teeth conducting my power directly into his nervous system. Stop, he gasped, falling to his knees. Please, but I wasn't trying to hurt him, I was simply connected. Through the silver network, I reached out to every supernatural being in the facility, using the very trap Victor had set to link us all together. Their pain became shared, distributed among dozens instead of concentrated in individuals. Their fear dissolved into collective courage, their exhaustion transformed into renewed strength. For the first time in my life, I truly felt like a Luna, not just the Alpha King's mate, but the living heart of our entire community. This is impossible, Victor's voice cracked through the speakers, no longer smooth or confident. The silver should be killing you. The silver is what makes me who I am, I replied, my voice carrying through every speaker in the building. Just like you never understood that true power isn't about domination, it's about unity. The tunnel walls stopped glowing as I absorbed the poisonous energy, converting it into something that strengthened rather than weakened us. The collapsed shifters began to stand, their eyes blazing with renewed determination. But even as I felt our victory within reach, something was wrong. The Alpha King's bond, it was changing, not weakening, but shifting into something I didn't recognize. Lara, he said, urgently gripping my arm. The silver network, it's doing something to the mate bond. I could feel it too. The connection between us was expanding, deepening, but also becoming unstable. Too much power, channeled too quickly, was threatening to burn out the very thing that made us mate. Victor knows, the Alpha King said grimly, realization dawning in his golden eyes. This was his real plan all along. Use the silver network to overload our bond, break it permanently. Through the speakers, Victor's laughter echoed through the facility. Did you think I hadn't studied every mate pair in recorded history? The bond has limits. Push too much power through it, and it snaps like an overstretched cable. Horror flooded through me as I felt the truth of his words. The network that was saving everyone else was slowly destroying the connection between me and my mate. Then we shut it down, I said, starting to pull back from the silver. No, the Alpha King said firmly. If you stopped now, Victor triggers the backup systems. Chemical weapons, silver gas, maybe even conventional explosives. Everyone dies. But if I continue, the bond breaks and we lose each other forever. Through the network, I could sense Victor's triumph. He'd created the perfect trap, save our people and lose our love, or preserve our bond and watch everyone die. Choose. Victor's voice taunted through the speakers. Luna Queen or mate. You can't be both. The Alpha King's hand found mine, his fingers intertwining with mine, even as I felt our bond beginning to fray at the edges. I choose us, I whispered. What? I choose all of us, I said more firmly, and instead of pulling back from the silver network, I opened myself to it completely. If Victor thought the mate bond had limits, he was about to learn how wrong he was. Chapter 8. Instead of fighting the silver network's drain on our mate bond, I embraced it completely and discovered Victor's fatal miscalculation. The mate bond wasn't like a cable that could snap from overuse. It was like a river that grew stronger the more tributaries fed into it. Every supernatural being connected through the Silver Network wasn't weakening my bond with the Alpha King. They were becoming part of it. What are you doing? The Alpha King breathed, his golden eyes wide as he felt the change. What I was born to do, I said, silver light erupting from every pore as the Luna power evolved beyond anything recorded in the old stories. I am connecting us all. Through the network, I felt it happening. The bear shifters trapped in the western cells, their strength flowing into the bond. The Raven twins, their keen sight and flight abilities joining the collective power. Even the human researchers who had been secretly sympathizing with our people, their courage and compassion, adding threads to the growing tapestry of connection. Victor's voice cracked through the speakers, panicked now. Impossible! The human nervous system can't handle that much psychic feedback. I'm not just human anymore. I said my consciousness expanding through the Silver Network until I could see the entire facility laid out like a map in my mind. I'm not just Shifter either, I'm something new. In his command center, Victor was frantically typing commands, trying to sever the network connections, but the Silver wasn't responding to his controls anymore, it was responding to mine. Marcus, Victor's voice barked through a radio, detonate the charges, bring the whole building down. Through the network, I felt Marcus's horror as he looked at the detonator in his hands. Father, there are still our people inside. Do it! But Marcus's hesitation gave me the opening I needed. Through the silver fillings in his teeth, I reached into his mind, not to control, but to show him the truth. Every experiment, every torture session, every innocent life his father had destroyed in pursuit of power. The detonator fell from Marcus's nerveless fingers as he staggered backward, retching. I can't, he whispered. God, what have we done? Victor's scream of rage echoed through the facility as his son's defection sealed his fate. But he had one last card to fine. His voice hissed through the speakers. If I can't have your power, I'll make sure no one can. Through the network, I felt him inject himself with something, a concentrated silver solution that should have killed any supernatural being instantly. But Victor Crane wasn't entirely human anymore. Years of experimenting on our kind had changed him, given him abilities he'd stolen from our blood and pain. The silver didn't kill him, it transformed him. He burst through the command center doors in a form that was part human, part something else, something wrong and twisted and hungry. His skin had taken on a metallic sheen. His eyes glowed with silver fire, and when he moved, the air itself seemed to bend around him. You want to see real power? He snarled, his voice echoing with harmonic frequencies that made the building's support beams groan. Let me show you what evolution looks like. He raised his hands and silver energy lanced out, not the warm, connecting power I wielded, but something cold and poisonous that sought to sever every bond I'd created. The network screamed as his anti-magic tore through the connections, and I felt dozens of supernatural beings cry out in pain as their links to the collective were severed. Stop, I commanded, but Victor just laughed. I am become death, destroyer of bonds, he quoted mockingly. Your little network made you powerful, but it also gave me a direct line to every mind you're connected to. Watch them fall. One by one, the lights of consciousness began going dark in the network, not dead, but cut off, isolated, left alone with their pain and fear. The Alpha King gripped my hand tighter as I felt our own bond begin to fray under Victor's assault. Lyra, he said urgently, if the network falls, it won't. I said with more confidence than I felt. But Victor was right about one thing. The network did give him access to attack every connected mind. What he hadn't considered was that it gave me access to something else entirely. Every supernatural being who had ever died in his facility, every spirit my grandmother had taught me to speak with, every ancestor whose power flowed through shifter bloodlines going back to the beginning of our kind. You think death is the end of connection? I asked Victor, my voice carrying the weight of generations. You really don't understand what you're dealing with. I reached beyond the living network into the realm my grandmother had shown me, calling not just to the recently dead, but to the ancient ones, the first shifters, the original Lunas, the Alpha Kings who had ruled when the world was young and magic flowed freely through the earth. They answered. Silver light erupted from every surface in the facility as the spirits of our ancestors joined the battle. Victor's stolen power, formidable as it was, couldn't stand against thousands of years of accumulated wisdom and strength. No! He screamed as his anti-magic began to fail. I am the future. I am evolution. You are nothing, said a voice that was mine but also belonged to every Luna who had ever lived. You are a parasite who mistook theft for strength. The combined power of living and dead supernatural beings flowed through me into the Alpha King and out through every connection in the network. Victor's metallic form began to crack like an eggshell as true silver light, not his corrupted version, surrounded him. This ends now, the Alpha King said, his voice harmonizing with mine as our bond stabilized and strengthened beyond anything it had been before. Together, we reached out through the network and did what Victor had never believed possible. We healed every connection he'd severed, restored every bond he'd broken, and turned his own stolen power against him. Victor Crane crumbled to dust, and his twisted version of evolution died with him. But the network we'd built, the connections between every supernatural being in the facility and beyond, those remained stronger than ever. In the sudden silence that followed, I felt something new stirring within me. Not just Luna power, not just the necromancer gift, but the first flutter of a different kind of life entirely. The Alpha King's eyes widened as he felt it through our bond. Is that he breathed? I placed my hand over my still, flat stomach and smiled through exhausted tears. The next generation, I confirmed. Our child. The first of a new kind of shifter, born from the union of all our gifts. Around us, the facility had gone quiet except for the sounds of survivors helping each other toward the exits. The war was over. But our real story was just beginning. Chapter 9. 3 months later, I stood on the balcony of the Alpha King stronghold, watching the sunrise paint the mountains in shades of gold and amber. My hand rested on the gentle curve of my belly, where our child grew stronger each day, already displaying gifts that made the pack elders whisper about prophecies and new ages. Regrets? The Alpha King asked, wrapping his arms around me from behind, his warmth chasing away the morning chill. I leaned back against his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat through our bond. About which part? Destroying a centuries-old conspiracy, saving dozens of supernatural lives, or accidentally becoming the most powerful Luna in recorded history. His laugh rumbled through his chest. About giving up your quiet life as the forgotten sister. I considered that seriously. The past 3 months had been anything but quiet. Delegations from packs across North America seeking alliance, government officials wanting to negotiate treaties now that supernatural beings were impossible to hide, reporters camping outside our territory, desperate for interviews with the Luna Queen, who had single-handedly ended the Crane family's reign of terror. No regrets, I said finally, though I do miss being able to go grocery shopping without a security detail. He pressed a kiss to the top of my head. Small price for saving our entire species. Through the network that still connected us to supernatural beings across the continent, I felt a familiar presence approaching. Selena climbed the stairs to the balcony, moving carefully but with determined purpose. The resurrection had left her weakened, but her spirit burned brighter than it ever had before. The council meeting starts in an hour, she said, settling into one of the chairs we'd placed there for her daily visits. Are you sure you want me there? Some of the other packs still don't trust me. I turned to face my sister, taking in the changes the past months had wrought. The arrogance and jealousy that had defined her for so long had been burned away by death and rebirth, leaving behind someone I was finally learning to know as family. You made mistakes, I said gently. We all did. But you're helping rebuild what you helped destroy. That matters more than past grievances. The Alpha King nodded his agreement. The rehabilitation programs for captured researchers, the therapy sessions for traumatized shifters, the legal framework for supernatural rights, none of that would exist without your inside knowledge of the Crane operation. Selena's eyes filled with tears as they did whenever we acknowledged her contributions. I just wish I could undo The past is what made us who we are, I interrupted, moving to sit beside her. All of it, even the painful parts, maybe especially those. Through the bond network, I've felt another approach, this one less welcome but necessary. Marcus Crane walked up the mountain path alone, as he had every week since his father's death, carrying files and information about remaining Crane facilities around the world. Still think we should trust him? The Alpha King asked, though his tone was more curious than concerned. I think he's a man trying to atone for his family's sins, I replied, and we need what he knows. Marcus had aged years in the past months, his hair gone completely gray, his face lined with the weight of guilt and revelation, but his commitment to dismantling his father's legacy had never wavered. Luna Queen, he said formally as he reached the balcony, though I'd asked him dozens of times to simply use my name. I have updates on the European facilities. I accepted his report, feeling through our minor connection, not true bonding, but enough contact to sense his intentions, that he was still genuine in his desire to help. The network had given me the ability to sense deception, one of its many unexpected gifts. 3 more facilities shut down. I noted, scanning his report, that leaves only 2 known locations. And an unknown number of hidden ones. Marcus added grimly, my father was nothing if not thorough in his paranoia. We'll find them all, the Alpha King said, with quiet certainty. Eventually, as Marcus left to brief the security team, I felt another stirring through the network, not danger this time, but joy. Somewhere in the Missouri mountains, a young shifter had just experienced his first transformation, guided by pack members who no longer had to hide their nature. In Oregon, a mixed pack of wolves and bears was establishing the first integrated supernatural community. In Florida, a Luna in training was learning to use her gifts not for dominance but for healing. The world was changing and we were at the center of it. Do you ever wonder what our child will think of all this? I asked the Alpha King, watching a pair of ravens dance through the morning sky. Growing up in a world where supernatural beings don't have to hide, I think he said carefully, our child will take it for granted, which is exactly as it should be. Through our bond, I felt his deeper concern not about the world we were building, but about the power our child would inherit. The network had shown us glimpses of what was coming, a generation of supernatural beings born with abilities that dwarfed their parents, children who could shift between multiple forms, Lunas who could heal mortal wounds with a touch, alphas whose authority extended across species lines. They'll be stronger than us, I said, acknowledging his unspoken worry. But they'll also be better than us. They'll grow up in a world where connection matters more than conquest. And if they don't, I smiled, placing my hand over his where it rested on my belly. Then they'll have parents who learned the hard way that love is stronger than power. A soft chime echoed through the stronghold, the signal that the morning council session was about to begin. Representatives from dozens of packs, along with human government liaisons and international supernatural authorities, would spend the next several hours debating everything from territory boundaries to education policies. Ready to change the world some more? The Alpha King asked, offering me his arm. With you? I looked into his golden eyes, feeling the absolute certainty of our bond, the warm presence of our growing child, and the vast network of connections that linked us to supernatural beings across the globe, always. We walked into the stronghold together, and through the network, I felt the collective anticipation of our people, not fear of the unknown, but excitement for what we would build together. Outside, the sun climbed higher, casting light on a world where the impossible had become possible, where love had conquered fear, and where a forgotten sister had become exactly who she was always meant to be. The Luna Queen, the heart of the network, the beginning of everything new. But most importantly, I was simply Lyra mate, sister, daughter, and soon-to-be mother, in a world where being yourself was finally enough. Which moment touched you the most? The sister's redemption, the mate bond that saved everyone, or the promise of a new generation? Share it in the comments. And if you loved this journey from Forgotten Sister to Luna Queen, hit subscribe so you're here for the next story of love conquering all.
Story summary. This story follows Lyra Blackwood's transformation from forgotten second daughter to Luna Queen. When her sister Selena drugs her and steals her place at the mate ritual, the Alpha King reveals Lyra is actually the true firstborn and his destined mate. Their bond leads them through capture by the Crane family's supernatural experimentation facility, where Lyra discovers her dual Luna necromancer heritage. She ultimately defeats the twisted Victor Crane, saves both living and dead supernatural beings through a revolutionary network of connections, and emerges as the most powerful Luna in history, pregnant with a child who represents the next evolution of their species. The story ends with hope, unity, and the promise of a world where supernatural beings no longer have to hide. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one. Thank you for watching this story to the end.